I am very well, and I am glad to see you.
I'm glad to be here.
I am glad to
Similar
see you,
sentiment, man.
honestly. All right, okay, so this is how you can be a part of the conversation. Send your message to WhatsApp 0809 444
Yes, you can watch us live on YouTube. You can leave a message on that platform as well. Please, youtube.com/, Smith FM Lagos, or type Smith FM Lagos in the search box and subscribe to the channel. We'll start with our first story, Oji. Persons begging with children risk 10 years jail term or 10-year jail term, says the Lagos State government. This was an announcement that was made by the Commissioner for Youth and Social Development, Shegun Daodu. He stated that as part of the campaign promises made by the Lagos State Governor, Sanwo-Olu, that Lagos State will not condone that activity. He said so far, over 728 beggars have been arrested, destitute and hawkers as well, between January and July. Please take us through this story, especially how the enforcement is planned to be carried out and why this has been ignored until now.
So the first thing I was going to say before you asked the last question you asked was how come it took so long? Particularly those of us who live in Lagos, we would have seen. Okay, so I personally I have not experienced any robbery by the beggars, disguising by robbers disguising as beggars. But in seeing those children and looking into their eyes, if you see how menacing they look, you just know this is disaster waiting to happen.
Yes.
It's always better late than never. It's a good thing the government is now taking decisive steps in that regard. The bigger part of the problem is okay. I don't want. I always try to be careful. I always like to show empathy. I don't want to sit from the comfort of my house or from office and say, go and arrest all those who are begging on the streets because I don't know how what has led them doing that. But we also know that for some people, that is a business. Okay, there are lots of Lagosians who would testify or who know personal stories of people who have brought in beggars from different parts of the country and who so the money goes to people.
Yeah.
That cannot be acceptable in any country.
Yeah.
So the Bible says the poor shall always be amongst you. That's what it's in the Bible. So as a Christian, you would know that sometimes it's for good and for bad. But a situation whereby someone else is milking someone else's misfortune, taking advantage of people, in fact, bringing in people from different parts of a state, specifically for the purpose of begging, no government worth its salt will fold its arms and do nothing about it.
Yeah.
My only problem is why it's taking long for them to take decisive action. I'm sure they're doing it, and I hope they have the political will to carry it out.
And not just make political statements with this. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that last statement about hopefully, because like, and again, this is not the first time I'm hearing something like this. We've heard about persecution for parents of children who are begging as they say they're supposed to be in school. So if you're supposed to be in school, and this had been for a while in Lagos State, we haven't seen persecutions as a, like that. It hasn't discouraged the people. So you're wondering what's different about this one, but we'll watch and see.
Cisco Delgado says, good morning, Ayo and Val. Good morning, Oji. It said, let the Lagos State government go to K2 bus stop and get a lot of people who are not disabled begging with children. They are all around, even in Lekki, in Ikoyi, you find all of them. You find them on Falomo Bridge. And it's amazing because some of them even brazenly go into the middle of the road. Some of them bang on your vehicle windows.
Oh yes, I've been threatened. So even though you hadn't, I'd been threatened by a man who'd come. He just gave the money. So
where?
yeah.
That's not begging. That's
Exactly. All right, let's move on to this next one. The Vanguard newspaper has this: we will not rest until we regulate social media. So the Minister of Information and Culture, Al-Haji Mohammed, sounded this note of warning in an interview he granted newsmen in Washington, United States of America. At first read, somebody asked me, in fact, Ayo asked me, so what's he doing in the US? Was it Ayo or the producer? She asked, so what's he doing in the US in the first place? I mean, one would think, oh, he flew to the US to meet with Jack Dorsey, but that's not the case. What are your thoughts on this story? There's no mention of the primary reason why he went there. But he's making this grand stance. It just seems like an overplayed take. What are your thoughts, please?
so the fewer I see about Alhaji Mohammed on radio, the better for me, personally, because I like to keep my views about him. personal, but I will still answer your question. The thing is, he said it here. So he's in the US. That's the story. People have also said that he went there, that he sneaked into the US to have a clandestine meeting with Twitter. He's denied it. He says he's there to meet with international media organizations and think tanks on the achievements of the Buhari administration and to apprise them of the efforts being made towards tackling insecurity, insurgency, banditry, and all of that. He then used the opportunities to also, again, parrot his views about fake news, about the need to regulate social media, and then also reiterated that they did not ban Twitter because of the fact that they deleted the president's tweet. But he ends by also acknowledging that the discussions aimed at resolving the issue with Twitter has reached an advanced stage. I think it was reported sometime last week that Twitter was going to be unbanned in a matter of days. But well, he has said what he went to do in the US. Others have a different theory as to why he's in the US. He admits that there are ongoing engagements and they've reached an advanced stage. I have nothing more to add.
Thank you so much. Let's move on now. FEC approved 16.6 billion naira for construction of Yobe Airport orders. This is a report from the Premium Times. The Minister of Aviation made this announcement, Hadi Sirika. He says that the Federal Executive Council approved this sum for the execution of 4 projects by his ministry, one of which is the construction of Wachakal Airport in Yobe at 6.3 billion naira, the post-construction services for the same airport, cost of 219.8 million, and procurement of 8 airport rescue and firefighting vehicles at a cost of 9.5 billion. First time, reading this again, Oji, I thought, there were 4 different projects, but it seems like they are all connected. My key question, though, is what's the economic value of investing this sum in an airport sited in Yobe?
Okay, first thing, the first part of what you said, I don't think they are all related. So that of 6.3 billion is clearly for the construction of the airport. 290 million is for services, for post-construction services for the same airport. But the third one, which is 9.5 billion, is for procurement of 8 airport rescue and firefighting vehicles. If it was for the same airport, I think they would have also said so. They did not. So it's possible it is for that airport. It's possible for all other airports. Because if you see, there's also the 650 million naira, which we'll get to for construction, for deployment of sniffer dogs. This sniffer or sniffer dogs? Sniffer dogs, for Lagos and Abuja airport. So I'm not very sure that 9.5 billion is for Yobe Airport. But having said that, the other question, which is even more fundamental, is do we need a new airport in Yobe State right now, constructed with Nigeria's money? Everything I've said is important, and I'm going to break it down. We have economic challenge at the moment. We have a number of issues. We have doctors who are on strike. We have university teachers whose ongoing or protracted discussions with the government has not ended. We have a lot of issues begging for attention. Why do we need a new airport in Yobe State? That's number one. Number two, does this money, if we do need an airport in Yobe State, should it be constructed not money from Yobe State, but with Nigeria's money? When last did the federal government construct an airport in a state? I know the airports that we've had in recent times have all been done by state governments. You hear that of Asaba, I know it's a Delta State government, that of Anambra State, even my state, Abia State, said they want a new airport, and we're asking, do we need a new airport? But it's their business. So these are states, what states are doing. So
that's an airline.
yeah, but then the airport itself, I believe it's Victor Airport in New York. So when last did the federal government construct an airport in and for a state? And why is this different? And above all, there is report that shows that in the past 4 years or 5 years, the state government has spent 18 billion naira constructing another airport in the same Yobe State. Google it.
Wow.
Dabatu International Airport. The state government said they've spent 18 billion naira on. So what is going on?
What's the income of your business?
IGR.
The income, yeah. even beyond, so IGL plus their FAC. So let's even see what they have collectively. What is their status financially? That's one. A number of people are also wondering why, in this article, unfortunately, they don't make a case for why we need an airport in Yobe State.
Well, the only thing they even said was that it will aid connectivity
To
with
where,
other parts of Nigeria.
okay. I mean,
So
fair
I
enough.
have no problem with
That's fair enough.
every state should have an airport. I have no
Yes,
problem with
yeah.
that. Okay, but you have to be
It's
viable,
priority, yeah.
and then it's when you are ready.
Yeah.
And so, if that is the case, which is why my major questions are, why are we constructing another airport if there is one ongoing already
Yeah.
by the state government? So do we need two airports? Even Lagos, the second airport that they've been talking about for a long time, they still have not constructed. And if there's any state in Nigeria that deserves two airports, you would know it is Lagos State. So why do we need two airports in Yobe State? And then why does the money have to come from the federal government of Nigeria? Is
How
another
is the
interesting
federal
part of it.
government going to fund it? Are we
Oh,
going to borrow to fund it? Yeah.
It's a
Yes,
good question
yes.
because if we're owing so much,
Yes.
why invest in a project that you can't defend? You can't say beat your chest to say like the railway project. Oh, what's Ramichi saying? You know, these are the amounts that we raise monthly. This is our defense because it's going to bring in more money. Because you have to pay your debts. Servicing debts of 98% of the rates.
They are also spending 658 million naira on dogs. I didn't know dogs were that expensive.
Sniffer dogs, yes. I mean training.
But it's okay.
Isn't it interesting that for the airports and the facilities, they're spending 9 billion, and further down the story for education, they've allocated 2.7 billion for the construction of facilities, including hostels. So just to see where we spend more money. I mean, there's nothing wrong with, like you mentioned.
No, but if the constitution says the requirement to be governor or president of Nigeria is SSC, and I have SSC and I'm president of Nigeria, why would I be? What is the? Why would I think I need to spend money on education? I mean,
Actually, I like Jerry's question because it seems like it. He said, please, is the awarding of contracts the only thing the FEC meets every Wednesday to discuss? They have
yes.
decided not to talk about the ravaging and insecurity. So that, and I have that thought every single Thursday because the only, well,
No,
it
that
seems like-
was for National Assembly. FEC is approval
Of funds.
of
the
no,
ex-
no,
the
ex- no, it has to be
the ex-
particular
the execute.
of
Yeah.
contract. Of,
Yeah, the execute
I
contract.
like that clarity. Yeah.
And then Dan Okuda says it seems like another job that Lai Mohammed does is as Minister of Information. It's only about social media issues. It's high time.
That's his legacy.
Actually,
Yeah. Because which is why what he. Thank you so much. Gosh, it's very good to have intelligent people around. It says we will not rest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Read between the
Yeah,
lines.
that's his legacy.
Yeah.
If I don't kill social media will kill me.
Yes. More like. Keyword.
All
Take away
right.
for the day. Yoma says, "Good morning. Yoma here on the airport. Yobe to Maiduguri airport is less than 1 hour. That airport is just a scam. There's nothing in Yobe either." Let's move on to more money being spent for plans to tax more. The executive chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Mohammed Nami, has disclosed that the service is working on a bill to introduce road taxes for users. While this reads as, oh, you're looking for another way to extort people, or rather to collect more money, it seems like it's tied with the plan to introduce tolls on federal roads. But what are your thoughts on this?
Again, I don't think so because in reading the story, it seemed to me that if we are saying two different things. So he's appearing before the National Assembly, specifically House Committee on Finance, and then they are discussing the medium-term expenditure framework for on Wednesday. And then what he says is they plan to send a bill to the National Assembly, which would introduce road tax. So it is Premium Times that is saying now that they had reported previously that the federal government, the Federal Executive Council had approved a new road policy.
Yes.
If you remember, that one was under, it was the idea, when I say the idea of Fashola, but it's former governor of Lagos State, who has really been talking about reintroducing tolls. So it appears to me as if it's a different thing. Now he is saying that they're targeting 10 trillion naira for 2022 fiscal year, which he says that even that would not be enough to fix the roads in Nigeria. Now let's have a sneak preview into his mindset. See what he says. After just talking about this one, I won't say anything on this story again. We are aware that the owners of these trucks, okay, before then he says that a number of about at least 50 trucks, okay, We have said what we have said to do is to propose the introduction of road taxes to the federal government through our special tax operations department, so that at least 50 trucks that will be plying these roads for free at any given time come across a toll gate or probably somewhere that we're going to use electronic devices to collect and all that. Now we are aware that the owners of these trucks, they don't pay anything to the government. They don't get FIR certificates. So up to 15 or 20 trucks that will ply the road that is built with a personal income tax that I and you pay, then they won't pay taxes. I'm confused. Are we talking about non-Nigerians who own trucks? Because using his logic, if the roads were constructed using personal income tax paid by Nigerians, that would necessarily include those who own trucks.
Thank you.
So why are you picking on truck drivers or truck owners and not private car
As if
users?
they are
So
not Nigerians.
that's why. So it just gives me. Government should not always be about how do we get more from them. Government is not a parasite. Government should add value. It's a social contract.
Yeah.
People have paid taxes to you, or at least have made themselves available to pay taxes. People have also given you power over them. Your job is to come in and see how you would add value and make things easier. But it seemed to me that like some 2-3 years ago, it was when you called to me that look, we had an economic crisis in the country, that recession that we had, and the next thing the governors were thinking of, governors are not the federal government, is we're going to look for another source of revenue.
Yeah.
And what do you think of?
Tax.
No, this one, loans,
Oh, yeah.
bond.
Oh, yeah.
That's all that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Is there nothing the government can do that would bring money
In-house.
without having to make the people, because there's a saying in my village, cut suya, cut nama, beef, all those things. It is the body of the cow that suffers it. So there is a time you get to, and you would skin the cow dead.
And there will be nothing
There will be
left.
nothing left
It's
for you
bone.
to take.
All right, thank you very much. Some comments. Our Sam says, will the parents of these child beggars understand this law? These people are not educated. They don't know what 10-year jail term means. Some don't even speak English. As long as they don't understand this law, this will continue to happen. These beggars come from remote communities and around the country. Instead, there should be education in these communities on the dangers of child begging. Joseph Menge from Silver Estate says, good morning. Why is the federal government so wasteful? The existing airports aren't well maintained, yet they want to build an airport which has no economic value to the country. God will help us in this country. All right, let's go on to our next story. Oji, UAE excludes Nigeria from countries to benefit from visa on arrival policy. So when you read this headline, you'll be thinking, oh no, Nigeria, we've done it again. Is there a bad behavior? But looking at the list of 70 countries who have been given visa on arrival, there's not one African, apart from Mauritius. I was going to say there's not one. I was going to say apart from
Which is a
Mauritius.
special African
Yes.
country.
So I thought, okay, it might not just be, and there must be the underlying. What's the underlying issue? It's probably not because of the Nigerian factor. Yeah. So or even, I mean, they've even said that South Africa or Nigeria, any visitor who would been in these two countries in the past 14 days would not be allowed to enter the UAE.
You know, it's very simple, right? We Nigerians are very special people. We think very highly of ourselves. We call ourselves giant of Africa. We believe that if anything is happening and it involves at least 5 countries in the world, and you don't mention Nigeria, is a problem.
You think we still believe that?
So it's hangover from that mentality that when you see it, like, because the first I saw the story, I agree with you. The moment I saw the headline, I said, what have we done again? Don't we have enough people that go to the UAE? Don't we make enough money for them?
Exactly.
And then I read the story, and the next thing was, I've not seen an African country, so it literally had to count it. I said maybe because the story said the list includes, so I felt it wasn't complete. I had to literally count all the countries, and I complete 70. Only one African country.
I looked at it.
Yeah, I did.
Fine tooth comb,
I
checked
did.
each of the names as well, and I mean, no African country.
Yeah, so let's just say that they have not given African countries visa on arrival at this time. What we need to do is to do more towards ensuring, and we should not see when we have this mentality that we deserve. This is exactly the implication of sovereignty. A country is entitled to say, this is what I want at this time. This is what I want to do for my country. It is not the business of Nigeria what the UAE decides to do with their visa program. We have our own visa program at every point in time. If we want to be special, we should develop ourselves. If we want for the world to recognize us,
Yeah.
it's time for us to stop thinking that we are special and actually become special.
Thank you.
Right now, we're not.
All right, so I've just seen Seychelles here, so maybe two African countries, but
there's the
two
one.
African countries with special status.
Those two
Mauritius,
have always
yeah,
been.
they're not, they're holiday destinations themselves. All right, let's move on to our next story. Igbo court awards 50,000 naira against Malami. A Punch newspaper, I think Malam is going to definitely feel this one. At an Oyo State High Court sitting in Ibadan has extended the order it gave restraining the Department of State Services from arresting Yoruba Nation activist Chief Sunday Adeyemo, aka Sunday Womb. Now they've also, to be fair, Igbo had asked for 250,000 naira to be awarded against Malami, but the court granted 50,000 naira.
Well, the truth is, this story is not about the money. The story is that after the DSS raid on the premises or the house of Bo, and then people were arrested, he went to court, or at least someone went to court on his behalf, and sued the Attorney General of the Federation as first defendant, DSS, and State Director of DSS, T.A. Nuruddin. Those are the three defendants. The biggest story for me is that they have filed an objection to the suit, saying that it ought not to have been commenced by way of fundamental right application. I'm not going to, I'll try and tone down on the legalese, but the reason why the money was awarded against the AGF, it's cost really.
Yeah.
He ought to have filed his response on time, and he wasn't filed within time, and then they asked for cost because they had delayed. The case should have come up for hearing on that day, but because they had filed their papers late, the case had to be adjourned, which was why the court awarded cost. But like I said, it's something we see every day in court, so it's really not a big deal. The other thing, like I said, is that they have objected to say the suit was not properly brought, because the claim includes unlawful killing, thought of trespass, assault, battery, and all of that. So they are saying that it should not have been brought under fundamental right enforcement procedural rules. Fundamental right enforcement procedure is one way where if your right has been infringed, you go to court. It's a very speedy procedure. Very speedy, still a matter of months, not like it's in a week. So you can get your case, I say, based on affidavit alone. So you just file affidavit evidence, and the court will read the papers and deliver its judgment. But what they are saying is that because of the nature of the claim that Sunday has brought here, Sunday has brought, the court it wasn't properly brought, so they should go and do the regular one that will last 2 to 3 years. That's basically what they're saying in this case.
I just wanted to clarify, because some people, it's not damages, is it?
No, it's cost.
It's just cost.
Cost for
That's
failure,
why it's the amount is so low.
It's just to pay for the gazette, I guess.
Well, let's talk about a topic that's close to my heart, because I feel like an aggrieved Nigerian. And only yesterday, someone had talked about the fact that shared on YouTube that, please, can we talk about the state of telecommunications in Nigeria? So we're celebrating 20 years. 20 years, happy 20th anniversary of having mobile telecommunication lines. What are you celebrating? Wait. Let's complete this. All right. Telcos attain 297 million phone lines, fail on financial inclusion, security, Guardian. I think this is being a bit conservative in terms of what they failed at. But it's a very lengthy report done by the Guardian newspaper, so kudos to them for breaking it down with regards to just analyzing that sector. Could you break it down for us here, Oji?
Okay. It's a numbers game, really. Like you said, Guardian has done the major work, so I'm just going to reproduce some of the things they've said. Yes, it's been 20 years, and it has indeed been eventful. In terms of numbers, it's about 297 million telephone lines have been connected. Of this, about over 100 million remain active. In fact, 187.3 million lines are currently active. Now, that's the good part of it. On the other side, the report says it has not solved the issue of security, because it was hoped that about 10 years ago, NCC mandated telecoms operators to mandatorily register all SIMs in Nigeria, and that has got billions of naira. But unfortunately, criminals continue to hold
In fact, things have
frequency
gotten worse. If you look at
ransom.
Nigeria today to 10 years ago, you
In
can't
terms
say
of
that, yes, in terms
definitely
of security.
yeah. And then the other part of the story is for them, we've also not really taken advantage of the financial inclusion that this mobile revolution ought to have brought. We've been compared with a country like India that has clearly done a lot better. For example, over 332 million Indian citizens have already opened mobile phone-based financial accounts. That was what was also expected of Nigeria, with over 183. We really felt at 20 years after we should have made progress, and then it's like a revolution. The way it came, one would have expected that 20 years down the line we will be celebrating. But as the report is not a favorable, it's not a positive one. But I always like to end my analysis on a hope, on a note of
Brilliant, thanks.
hope.
Please, can
We have-
somebody clear
yeah.
this for me? Sorry,
Yes.
Oji and Ayo. What happened to the threats by federal government that if you don't register your SIM and
It's been
you'll
postponed.
be really?
December is they keep moving the goalposts. So every time it's close to the deadline, it's moved on to
So
another
while
one.
this is being shifted, fraudsters are having the time of day. I mean, you can't. You know what? Let's move on.
It is this again. One of it. I was expecting the story to mention the part that at some point we suspended registration of new SIMs, just like we banned, just like we closed the border, just like we banned Twitter.
Yeah.
Whether all of these policies have yielded the
These
desired
ones you just
result
mentioned have failed.
is what I don't know.
Clearly.
Something else before you end on that positive note, Oji. Do you think 297 million phone lines is something to celebrate? When you look
No.
at the population of Nigeria, I find it quite surprising that in 20 years we've only been able to register 297 phone lines. Don't forget, not people, phone lines.
I was going to say that.
includes
Remember that
people
some
with
people have
5 years,
some have 10,
10.
some have 10.
I think that I believe the number is very, very low.
I don't think, and even think that it's the low number. It's just the fact that that number is not being used judiciously. Because you would say that if you have 297, yeah, that's great, but how are you using them to your advantage? If they were interconnected and given, linked to financial services, which are still fighting over between banks and telcos, would have gone further.
CC, CBN, the telcos themselves need to ask themselves questions. That is part of what their job entails.
Absolutely.
20 years after, what have we really achieved? And it's not a question of we registered 10 million, 100 billion lines. What has been the impact? Obviously, there's no question that our lives have changed with the mobile revolution, but a lot more needs to be done. That's how governance should be.
Financial
You need to ask yourself
inclusion, so many
questions.
things.
How can I do better? How can this policy help Nigeria? Not what can I ban?
Yeah. So, is that a positive note you're ending on?
Yeah.
Sorry,
I mean, it's a positive advice.
No, please, how can we ban? Right, just to mention, because we're out of time, Buhari sets up steering committee on petroleum industry Act, Premium Times. It's going to be headed by the Minister of State for Petroleum, Chief Timothy Silva.
Can I just say that we've not heard the last of that act?
No.
We're just starting.
In the next 12 months.
We're
maybe.
just starting.
Yeah. A friend from Iko, he says the FRS boss is not saying the truth. These trucks are involved in various tax regimes. If the reason for introducing a road tax is this or anything else, it's just multiple taxation on the populace. It's very unfair. And this final one from Fabian.
Fabian says, Oji's expression with the word parroting is spot on. Can the Lagos State law not be targeted at those who actually put these beggars on the street? Thank you very much, everyone, for your contributions. A big thanks to our analyst for today, Oji Uka. We continue the conversation at 8:10 a.m. when we bring you today's edition of Lagos Talks 91. You share your thoughts and call us to let us know what you think about the top headline stories for today.
The number to call is 0144899981.
Smarter back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oji,
Oh, you need to turn off. You need to turn off.
my guy.